Hey, welcome back to my channel. If you're new to me, my name is Rachel. I'm a feminine life coach, and on this channel I talk about how feminine energy has transformed my life and how it can yours too. Today I will be talking about how radical acceptance was the change that both me and my husband needed in our relationship. We can reduce our emotional suffering by accepting what is. Unfortunately, most people in the world are addicted to suffering. And after my spiritual awakening, that became very evident to me. I realized that not only was I addicted to suffering, but everyone around me was addicted to suffering. And when you are addicted to suffering, a lot of times you don't know or realize that you are. And that can look like gossiping a lot or just wanting to stay in the emotional state that you're in without making any changes. It can also look like complaining a lot. And unfortunately, a lot of people are stuck in that because they don't realize that that's what they're doing. Eckhart Tolle says that we can reduce our suffering by 95% with just acceptance. That's a pretty happy existence. And this is a quote from Eckhart Tolle. He says, "Accept, then act. Whatever the present moment contains, accept it as if you have chosen it. Always work with it and not against it. Make it your friend and ally, not your enemy. This will miraculously transform your life." And he also goes on to say that it doesn't mean that you stop liking what is, just stop resisting what is, because it creates more spaciousness to what is. And when we can create more spaciousness, then we feel more at rest and at peace instead of closed in. So I really love that quote. I really love Eckhart Tolle's teachings. I read his book, The Power of Now, a year ago, and it was so powerful. Definitely recommend it. And today I want to talk about my story because one of the most challenging things that's ever happened in my life was coming face to face with acceptance. And that was really challenging, and I learned a lot through it. So I wanted to share that with you. You can go back to the story where I have a video of where we both were talking about our story, and he was sharing his perspective of feminine energy, and he also went into some of the things that he's gone through, the challenging times that we've both gone through in our past. So I'm comfortable enough to tell you about it because he's already talked about it. So if you want to hear his perspective, go back to my video. It's called His Perspective on Feminine Energy. But 5 years ago, I was pregnant with our first baby, and he was in a really difficult place, a time in his life. He was addicted to drugs, and I had no idea until I found something in his jacket pocket one night on Christmas Eve. And my parents were staying with us at the time, and I was able to get their support to have a confrontation with him. And I had to come to a place where I had to say, you either get better or I can't be with you. And I'll go into more of strong boundaries in this video because I feel it is so important for us to protect our feminine energy and our delicate nature with strong boundaries. And that's where the masculine energy balances the feminine in that regards within ourselves. But I had to make that decision. I had to say, I'm leaving right now and you need to go and get better. I don't know what that looks like, and I'm willing to help you, but I need to leave and you need to get better for the safety of myself and my daughter. So I left, and he decided to accept going to a rehab facility. It was the first time he was confronted with that opportunity. And so my husband said that he would go. It was a wonderful place. It was far away from where we lived, but it was definitely worth the distance. And the time that he spent there, he was able to get clean and confront the problems that he was dealing with in his past. And he had to apologize to everybody that he hurt in the past. And then going through this sauna, this detoxification process, was so helpful, because so many people, they go back to their addictions because it's still in their bodies. Their bodies are still craving it because it's in their cells of their body. And thankfully, 5 years later, my husband has still been clean of drugs. He has never gone back to them. However, he has struggled with other addictions, and that's what I'm going to kind of talk about in this video. So, about a year and a half after he came back from rehab, he reintroduced himself to alcohol. And that was not something that I necessarily agreed with, but it was his decision, and he handled it very healthfully in the beginning. But as time went on, he started to get addicted to drinking alcohol and making it a regular practice, even when there was nobody else drinking with him. And there were times where he would have a bottle of wine every single night. And that's not like a lot compared to most alcoholics, but it was causing issues and things that I'm not going to go into, but it was making me feel that I could not be my authentic, happy self when he was consuming this much alcohol. And I confronted him over and over about it. And luckily, I have a very sweet husband who is willing to hear me out and not just shut me down. But it didn't mean that it changed anything. I was stepping into my masculine energy, trying to change him, trying to make him stop. And that wasn't working whatsoever. If anything, he would stop for maybe a week, um, or reduce the amount so he would only drink on the weekends. But it was still a consistent thing in his life up until I decided to step into my feminine energy and just be quiet about it. And this was very challenging. And it wasn't something that I could just shut my mouth and be complacent about, because I would just build up within me this resentment. And so I realized I had to do something different. And I was talking to my mom about it one day, and I was just like, I don't know what else to do. And she suggested just accepting him as he is. And she's like, what do you think about that? And I was like, well, I know that's the right thing to do, but that does not seem like something that I can do. It doesn't seem like something that is possible. And looking back, I realized that that's how I've been my whole life. I've always been a person that thinks that they can control other people, and that I can make happen what I desire to be of benefit to their life and to mine. And so when I realized that that's what I was doing, I had to also realize that I cannot change anyone but myself. And so that's what I decided to do. I decided to change myself by fully accepting who he was with unconditional love, that no matter what decisions he made, whatever he did, I would love him, but I would still have my strong boundaries in place, and just accept that that's who he is and that's who I am. And I know a lot of people have a hard time with this, because I had a hard time with it. It feels like when you're accepting what they're doing, you're condoning the behavior. And that's not what I'm saying. Just because you accept what is does not mean that you agree with what the person is doing or that you encourage it. So my mind went to the far extreme where I was like, encourage him to keep drinking. And that's not what my mom meant. She meant that I can be at full peace within myself no matter what's going on externally. And like Eckhart Tolle says, act as if you chose this. And so if I chose this, if I chose to learn from it and chose to be in this situation, then how am I going to use that to benefit me and those around me? So when I set strong boundaries for myself, I was able to be in a place of accepting what he was doing and who he was, but also not crossing a line of, if he was going to continue to go down this path of a lifestyle that I did not agree with, then there was acceptance in that, where I accepted who he was, but I also accepted my reality that I was not going to continue to allow the relationship to be what it was. And I think a lot of times when we threaten that we're going to do it and we don't actually do it, it hurts our own boundaries, and it also hurts the person that is needing to make the change, because they know that you're not going to leave. And I'm not saying that if they don't do what you want them to do, then just leave. What I'm saying is that you need to determine within yourself, what is a strong boundary of yours? What is it that you are going to be like, no, I am not going to put myself through that. And for me, I know what those things are. And there's a little bit of gray area before I get to that point. And so if there's that gray area, there's room for compromise. There's room for me to decide, okay, if this is not pleasant to me, I can choose whether I'm going to completely remove myself or just energetically remove myself and say, okay, um, they are not going to get my energy right now, but I'm still going to be in a loving relationship with them. I truly desire to be a woman of soft strength and confidence. And a lot of times over the years, I was always wondering why I couldn't be that soft, gentle, but also strong, feminine woman that I wanted to be. And I realized it was because I had put up this wall in front of myself to protect myself. I didn't fully heal what was inside. And so I was blocking people out of my life from entering in. But then once they got in, it was like mush, and there was weakness there. And my feminine energy could not thrive in that environment. And so I wanted to change that. And I feel like I really have. I have become a soft person on the outside for the most part. And especially um, in different relationships. And then on the inside, I'm this strong, confident woman that cannot be um, torn down. And I say that there is such power in boundaries because when you set those boundaries for yourself, your partner is going to know those boundaries, and they're over time going to realize that they can't step past those boundaries, unless they want this relationship to end. And I feel like my husband knows energetically what those boundaries are for me, and um, he's never crossed them, thank goodness, um, ever since we've had that one situation. So now I'm able to hold my boundaries in a silent kind of way. There's such power in silent feminine boundaries. And I'll give you an example of that. So, one time I did not agree with how he had handled a certain situation. And um, I just walked away and started cleaning the dishes. And he came up to me and was like, I mean, what do you think of that? And I just didn't say anything. And he was like, Rachel, are you going to say anything? Because normally I'm just like, blah, 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 blah. And I just was like, I'm sorry, I'm not going to talk about this right now. I don't feel comfortable talking about it. And in a healthy relationship, that's okay. In an abusive relationship, that can really hurt you. So that's why you need to be safe. Um, in order to be in your true feminine energy, you have to be in a healthy relationship. I harp on that all the time because some of my very close relatives have been in abusive relationships, and I just hate that for people. I hate that that's what has happened, and I know the reasons behind it all, but I don't wish that on anyone. So, anyways, um, once I removed my energy from the situation at hand and from my husband at that time because I didn't agree with what was going on, the voices in his head were so much louder than my voice, and so he was able to go within himself and see, okay, what am I doing wrong? What did I do wrong? How can I be different? How can I work on myself so that I never have to experience this lack of my feminine sweet woman again? um and that was more powerful than I've ever experienced. And that same thing happened in regards to his alcohol addiction. I just stopped saying things. I stopped judging him. I just completely accepted who he was in, and as difficult as it was to just accept him, I was able to find such peace and serenity within my own life of just being completely okay with whatever was, and knowing that I have certain boundaries in place to protect myself so I don't need to be afraid. And it was just amazing because as I stepped into my feminine strength and power, he then stepped into his masculine and took up his strength to be the man that I needed. And so, what that looks like now is, I would say, probably 6 months after I had that conversation with my mom, my husband decided to do a whole month of being sober. And that actually lasted 2 months. So he was sober for 2 months, and then he decided that only on special occasions is he going to drink, when it's with either family or friends, when we're doing like something out, going out to eat, or having like a grill out thing. Um, so he decided that that's what he's going to do. And I've actually been really impressed with how he's handled the control of his alcohol usage. It's been like 5 months since he went fully sober for 2 months. And so he's really been able to keep it under control. And I'm really thankful and impressed by that. If I had my ideal world, I would just would have him not drink at all. But that's me, and I again cannot control who he is and what he chooses to do. But I think maybe one day he'll realize how important it is to be sober. But that's not up to me. That will be up to him and God. So he also has made mention to me before in the past that he resists people when they tell him what to do. And I think we all, to some extent, are like that. If someone tells us what to do, we're going to resist it and kind of come up against it with curiosity and ask why. Why should we not do that? I mean, all children pretty much do that. I think that's very interesting. If you're in like a healthy place with yourself, I feel like that's always a good thing to express and to allow yourself to be in, but also to be curious with yourself and really see or ask yourself, like, maybe this person is telling me not to do this for a reason. Maybe I should figure out why before I just keep doing it to actually figure out what's going on. But sometimes that's just what we have to do. We have to go through the motions in order to find out for ourselves why we shouldn't be doing something. So when I completely surrendered to my present moment, I created such heaven in my own reality, in my present moment. And I relatively quickly manifested my true desires, which was to have him stop drinking and to drink less. And the reason I was able to manifest that was because I wasn't adding any resistance to my desires. And that's a really big factor when trying to manifest something is we try and we want to make it happen, and it creates resistance because you're simply needing for it to happen. And when you're needing for it to happen, it's not going to come into your reality, because that energy doesn't like when it's a needing. Like when we need to have money, when we need to be in this relationship with this person. Over my lifetime, I've realized and experienced that neediness is not an attractive energy, and that comes in all shapes and forms. And so when we are needy, it's not going to bring about what we desire. We need to let go and completely be present in the moment, trusting what is there and accepting fully what is before us. Radical acceptance changed my husband, and that is the power of feminine energy. And radical acceptance also changed me by trying to control and manipulate situations. Instead, I let go of what was and found complete beauty and pure peace and happiness in the present moment.
I also wanted to add in here that my pure peace and happiness did not come as a result of what my husband did. It came as a result of me being present and fully accepting my reality in the moment.
So I hope that this was helpful for you and something that you can apply to your life. Radical acceptance is not an easy thing, but it is so worth it. And it becomes easier the more that you do it. So you're doing great. Keep up the great work. And I hope you have a great day.